spent a lot of time in these hills, water skiing, not enough time. Went to Mountain City. Any of y'all square dancers there? You remember Mountain City? Remember what it said on the door of Mountain City? If you can't have fun here, you can't have fun anywhere. And I'm glad to see it's still true today. You know, grew up in great times. Grew up, great parents, very, very lucky. A time when you said yes, ma'am, and no, sir. A time when all the neighbors knew each other. A time when all the kids had chores and boys cut their own grass for the family. And a time when you always did your homework and you never sassed back to the teacher, because if you did, she might tell your dad, and he was always going to be on the teacher's side. It was a time when if your car needed to have a change of oil or spark plugs, the big kid down the street taught you how to do it so that you could teach that to your kid brother one day. I was very lucky to live in that time. My dad was a Depression-era baby. He was raised in New York, raised up hard. His family many, many times had to skip meals. Meat was a luxury. My dad taught us to be frugal and hard-working. You never left the lights on when you left the room at the Kingston household. You never left the TV on at the Kingston household. Waste not, want not was the byword. He put us on a clothing allowance when we were 12 years old, $3.25. There wasn't any money back then either. I used to come up here to Commerce, Georgia, Champion Mills, and get my clothes where they sold them in a big stack there, and you get a pair of pants for 75 cents. I did not get this shirt there, by the way. I do want to know, Ron, we are having this shirt contest. I think this is a competitive shirt for the Patriotism Award. But as a member of Congress, I remember those lessons. I don't leave the office in Washington, D.C. with the lights on. I've cut my office expenses 14%. I've returned over $1 million to the taxpayers in unused office salaries, rent, and other expenses. As chairman of the Agriculture Committee, I cut spending $3.6 billion and negotiated with Dick Durbin to do it and got it signed into law by President Obama. You have to be tough in order to do that, but we got the job done. Now I'm chairman of the Labor, Health, and Human Resources Committee, and I'm proposing a budget that takes those departments back to the 2001 spending level. It's the largest cut that they have ever had, and it's going to be very, very tough. But one thing Paul and I agree on, a lot of times it's our own party that fights us as we try to do these things. It's easy, you know, to vote against Obamacare. Vote against Obamacare when you're a Republican, or the Obama stimulus program, or Dodd-Frank. That's pretty easy. I voted against the Bush stimulus bill. I voted against the Bush bailout of Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. Vice President C.H.A.R.G.E. himself called me and asked me to vote for TARP, the Wall Street bailout. And I told him, Mr. Vice President, I'd love to do that. I'm a fan of yours, but I can't do this. I feel bad as an American citizen saying no to the president, but the right vote is no. And I say that because I have been in these battlegrounds, and it's very important to have somebody who has proven that he's been there. My dad also taught us to work hard. We all had chores around the house, cutting the grass, cleaning the gutters, emptying the garbage, doing a myriad of things. And when I got out of school, and I had jobs all through college, delivering submarine sandwiches for Steve Areno's, a busboy at IHOP, a resident assistant, cutting grass for on the side. When I got out of school, I went to work for an insurance agency. Not immediately out of school. I worked for a shipping agency for a while, but then I went to work on 100% commission selling property and casualty insurance. If I wanted a raise, all I had to do is look myself in the mirror and say, that's the guy who's controlling your destiny. If you want to do better, look yourself in the mirror. And I strongly feel that that work ethic is missing in America today. And working with small businesses, I learned lots of things. One of the things I learned is that businesses work best when the government gets the heck out of their way and lets them create jobs. Without Without the aid of some nanny state bureaucrat who's got programs from cradle to grave telling us how we can't pollute the air, how we can't hurt a fellow human being, as if that's what you want to do. I want to ask you, you read these polls sometimes, 90% of America wants clean air. I'd like to know, are you, any of you 10%ers in here? It's ridiculous. I'd say 100% want clean air. And no businesses are going to try to hurt their employees or hurt their customers, but it seems like Washington won't give businesses credit for anything. I'm proud that I have a 100% National Federation of Independent Business voting record, a lifetime voting record. I'm proud to say that I voted against Obamacare, but I want to say this as Republicans, it's not just enough for you and I to sit back and say, oh, it's going to implode. We have to be there with a replacement plan. And that plan has to be something that's competitive and gives people access to health care. And you and I need to be working on that today because we cannot just be the party of no. And furthermore, one of the things Paul and I agree with is that the IRS under Obamacare is not going to contract. It is going to expand. If we haven't learned anything by the Cincinnati IRS office, and oddly enough, it was just a Cincinnati office, but the director visited the White House 157 times during that period of time, more times than Eric Holder did. Anybody want to believe that was just the Cincinnati office? We have to replace the tax code. I'm an original co-sponsor of the fair tax bill. I have fought for it, but I will also support a flat tax or anything that moves us to tax simplification so that you and I can get the IRS out of our lives. Now, let me say this. We're talking about my mom just a little bit. My mom taught me to love Jesus. My mom taught me to be patriotic. My mom taught me to be idealistic. When I was elected to the state legislature, there were 26 Republicans. 26. We didn't have any majority. You couldn't go around telling people, vote for me because I'm a Republican. You had to have ideas. And I learned from people like Jim Tysinger and Dorothy Felton and Paul Coverdale and Charles Bannister. You had to fight hard and you had to have ideas. One of the things that I fought really hard for is the expansion of the Port of Savannah. It has a $1 investment for a $5.50 return, and it creates or it supports 350,000 jobs in the state of Georgia, and most of those jobs are in Gwinnett and northern counties in the state of Georgia. It's something that we need, but let me tell you this, whether you're for the port expansion or not for the port expansion, during the period of time that we've passed the legislation for it 13 years ago, we've studied it now for 13 years, $41 million. And during that time, China has built a port from start to finish that's bigger than the Port of Savannah. That should keep all of us awake at night. What are we thinking? We've got to get the job done. We have to send a signal to the Washington bureaucracy. That's not going to keep us competitive in the international marketplace. We have got to be aware that we have economic competitors like China all over the globe. And if we think it's only economic competition, we're fooling ourselves again, because there's military competition all over the globe. I am proud that as a member of the Defense Committee, I have represented 5 major military installations. I've visited our soldiers all over the world, and I have vowed as a member of Congress to never let the American soldier fight a fair fight. I want them to be the best trained, have the strongest tanks, the most accurate missiles, and the fastest airplanes, because I want them to go against any adversity, anytime, any place, and win and get home safely. And we need to send a signal. If you grab our ambassador or any other American citizen, we're not giving an order to stand down. We're going in and we're going to get him out. Ladies and gentlemen, I see my time has expired, so I will not I will not continue. I know we have Q&A coming up, and I look forward to the questions. But let me just say, I really appreciate y'all being here today. We're all here because we love America. We've got to win this U.S. Senate seat. We've got to make sure Georgia remains in the Republican column, and we've got to make sure that enough other states do the same thing so we can get the majority back and send Harry Reid back to Nevada. Thank you very much.